Easter is the highest of Christian holy days, and it's also a day some Unitarian Universalists find challenging. We love to celebrate the renewal of the earth and the coming of spring, and yet Easter is something else, something more than that. We celebrate the symbols and metaphors of this day. Last year we had a beautiful flower communion. There's an Easter hunt going on during this service, and there'll be a celebration for the children afterward. The thing is, we UUs understand Christmas. Jesus was born. We understand Good Friday. He died. It's Easter that's difficult. We're talking about a miracle, a really big miracle. And for some of us, that may mean suspending our usual cynicism and disbelief. But here it is. I believe in miracles, and I'm going to give you just one example. My family was part of a tight-knit school community for over a decade. The mothers became especially close, and when one of us, our friend Jean, became ill with cancer, it hit us all hard. Throughout her illness, we brought meals, tended her children, consoled her husband, as communities do. But in the last days that Jean spent in a local hospital, many friends slipped away from visiting her, not knowing whether their presence would be welcome or an intrusion. One morning I woke up, certain that I should ask Jean's husband if I could visit. She hasn't spoken or had food or water for a week, he said. We just don't know what is keeping her alive. Come, of course, if you want to. Just know that she doesn't look the same, and she won't respond. I went that evening, taking an hour's shift from a member of her church community who sat vigil with her in turns so her husband could have a break. Jean, I said, noting her stillness and corpse-like appearance, it's Lisa. As tears began to flow, I told her about my recent visit with her children, who were close in age, friends and classmates to my own. Then both tears and words flowed from me without thinking. I know it must be impossibly hard to let them go, Jean. I can't even imagine what that must be like. I'm so very sorry that you have to do this, but I want you to know that they will be okay. We'll take care of them. We'll make sure that they remember you, and they will know how much they are loved. You can let go now. It's all right to let go. I sat in silence the rest of the hour and then left, feeling completely wrung out. The next day there was a workshop at the school. I don't remember the topic, but about 20 women, all moms, were there sitting in a large circle. Midday, a staff member came to tell us they'd just learned of Jean's death. We took a break, and I went outside to walk in the meadow behind the school. As I walked, I silently talked to Jean, asking her for a sign that she was okay. I had felt so close to her as a woman, a mother, as my friend. When I went back into the room, the staff person preparing the school newsletter, a role I had formerly held, took me aside. It's the oddest thing, she said. I've been working on an announcement for the newsletter about Jean's death, and it looks fine on the screen, but when I print it out, there's a tiny star by Jean's name every single time it comes up. I've tried every way I can to remove it, but it just stays. Silently, I wondered. Later that day, I called Jean's husband, and I told him about the star. Oh, he said, thank you for telling me. All day, Lily, their youngest, has just been sitting at the kitchen table, drawing stars. Wow, I said to myself. Thank you, Jean. It was a small miracle, to be sure, but I believe it was all about love. Love for her children and family, for this group of women, for this community, for life itself. Love that brought Jean back to us in a tiny star that appeared by her name, a sign of love, a glimmer of hope. I do believe in miracles, large and small, And I believe that love always brings us back, every single time, back to the best in us, back from the edge of despair, back from the hardest times in our lives, like this one. I've heard this time of the COVID-19 virus, this pandemic, described as a Good Friday moment, a moment when we're clinging to hope, when it's hard to believe in renewal, in freedom from fear, in resurrection. We cherish the Easter spirit of rebirth, and in this moment, we eagerly look for signs of spring's return. Yet this is also a Passover moment, when, like our Jewish siblings, we're praying that the angel of death spares us, just passes over our homes. And it's a time when we're peering into the empty tomb with too many questions and too few answers. A time for faith of whatever sort we can muster, a time to hold on to each other, to believe in the power of love, to pray for a miracle. In ancient times, they said, Dayenu. It would have been enough. Enough to have been spared after the plagues. Enough to have been freed from slavery. It would have been enough to have had food in the desert. Now, in this moment, we question, when will it be enough again? We're thrown back on ourselves, broken open by compassion, reaching for all the faith we can muster, hoping against hope for this freedom that only love can bring. And right now, the love we're demonstrating is in staying at home, keeping our distance. And Dayenu, it will be enough. The Christian scriptures describe the resurrection of Jesus on this day. Mary Magdalene and two other women come to the cave-like tomb where they'd seen Jesus laid the night before, a large stone across its entrance. They see that the stone has been removed. The tomb is empty, and Mary runs to get the other followers. Entering the empty tomb, they see the linens he was wrapped in, and they're puzzled. Jesus' disciples had been told he would rise from the dead, but now they're frightened and confused, and they go back home. Then, as Mary Magdalene stands weeping outside the tomb, Jesus appears to her and calls her name. She reaches out to him, this man who completely changed her life, and calls out, "Teacher." Mary longs to stay with him, clings to him, yet Jesus, certain of her love and devotion, sends Mary, a messenger of proof, back to his other followers. "Tell them that I am ascending to my God and your God," he says. And returning to them, Mary tells them, "I have seen the Lord." It is this Mary of Magdala, the woman who we were told had a bad reputation, this Mary who ends up bearing witness to Jesus' death, being gifted with this miracle, if you will, this appearance of Jesus. The same Mary Magdalene who was forgiven and redeemed by her faith, one of those among the most oppressed and downtrodden, outcasts, people with bad names of all kinds. It was through the love of this Mary that the message of Jesus' reappearance came to his people. Because time and time again, out of despair and misery, out of hopelessness and fear, love does bring us back. Many of us have heard stories of loved ones who reappeared, left signs of some kind, like Jean's little star, or appeared in dreams. But you don't need to believe in miracles, as I do, to believe in the power of love. When someone's physical body dies, the people around them who loved and mourned them keep their memory alive, just as the followers of Jesus remembered his teachings, his messages of love, his spirit, long after his death. Jesus is indeed resurrected in the hearts of those who keep working for all the things that his life represented, loving our neighbors as ourselves, treating each other with kindness and dignity, working on behalf of the poorest and most downtrodden, seeking justice for the least among us. In this Easter moment, as we think of the empty tomb and all that it means, our churches are also empty. It's hard not to be together today in our beloved sanctuary. Hard to know that it will likely be weeks, maybe even months until we're there again. So it's good to remember that the very first Easter was not in a congregated worship space with singing and celebration. On the very first Easter, Jesus' followers were locked in their houses, alone in their homes. There they began to believe, to dare to believe, that hope was possible, that the long night was over and morning had broken, that love had brought him back, had brought them back to the best in themselves and the best in each other. Like the disciples, we aren't quite sure what to believe, but we know that Jesus' love and justice-making ministry triumphed over the Roman Empire's attempt at silencing him. We know that no matter how long winter seems, spring will come, and with it new and more abundant life. Empty churches will one day be full again. We will be together in body as well as in spirit. Love is among us now, daily, in acts of courage, compassion, and kindness we hear about every day. This is love in action. This is the love that keeps bringing us back. Today, may we hold all of it, witnessing injustices that intensify in this crisis and honoring, too, the longing to offer love and compassion, and also to make deeper, real change when crisis is over. In this time, may we keep widening our circles of community so that everyone finds a place inside. Spring will come, no matter what. The resurrection could not be stopped by a centurion guard outside the tomb. Love always, always brings us back. This daring belief unites us over time and distance today. May you feel it as we reach out toward each other from our homes in shelter. And after a while, when it's safe for all people, when it's the most loving choice, we will come out, gathering together, singing and shouting the good news that love always, always has the final say. Amen, and blessed be.